Artificial intelligence is effectively rewriting the rules of the recruiting process. So what's the point of AI? To make us mere mortals more efficient in the workplace? We're being told that artificial intelligence will surely be able to outperform recruiters in most tasks like sourcing, stack ranking candidates, resume match, and of course, follow-up communications. So in the future, who's going to be the real recruiting subject matter expert? The AI or the human? Artificial intelligence has hit the headlines with some really bad press about injecting unconscious bias in the recruiting process, about over-automating tasks, and removing too much human interaction. In this episode, we're going to discuss the myths, the reality, and everything in between with artificial intelligence. So stick around. We're going to get started right now. My next guest is a global keynote speaker and co-founder of the blockchain recruitment platform Job.com. He's been in the recruiting industry for 15 years now, and he's consistently sought to bring recruitment to the cutting edge of technology. His former projects included reinventing the way job content found candidates through utilizing matching technology against job aggregation. His current venture, Job.com, is an AI blockchain-enabled platform that seeks to reduce hiring costs by as much as 70% while paying candidates up to 5% hiring bonuses. He's also the father of 5 kids. Please welcome Aaron Stewart.
Thank you for having me on, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. So we're going to jump right in. I've already given your background and everything, so everybody's up to speed as what your background is. And
used car salesman, is that right?
Yes. From England, right?
Yeah, you can never trust a used car salesman from England.
No, especially not from England.
You're British, right? I'm joking.
So artificial intelligence has really hit the headlines in the last year or so, and it's gotten a bad name, some bad press about injecting unconscious bias and into the recruiting process, about over automating the recruiting process in certain tasks and removing too much of that human touch or the human interaction. Do you think we learned any lessons from those mistakes that we made?
I think some individuals have learned some lessons. And I'll throw the example for Amazon. They spent years building their AI recruitment matching tool, found that there was unconscious bias, masculine bias, and they just scrapped it. And I don't actually think that's necessarily a lesson learned by them. Maybe they've got other stuff planned, but just scrapping it and ignoring it like it's not a problem for the rest of the industry, I think isn't cool. Breaking down what you've just said there into various bits, the whole AI and unconscious bias stuff is very clear. It's like anything. If you teach a child with a certain amount of information and only that information, they're going to learn that specifically. And artificial intelligence is exactly the same. So, you talk about a tech industry that's 80% male dominated, and AI is learning from the resumes that have been successfully placed. It's going to look towards masculine language and male-based, dominated-based resumes to place people on. It's kind of interesting that we hadn't realized this before, but we have now. And I think, from our side, and it's not a plug for job.com, but we have specifically hired people now to retrain our AI to make it less biased. But I think also we have to remember that artificial intelligence isn't here to replace us. It's here to make us more efficient. And I think that's the dehumanizing part that we've kind of maybe pushed too much. Everyone's like, oh, that's it. Everything will be automated. Everything's going to be automated. And we've been guilty of that too, from our side of pushing it, saying, oh, it's all automated. No, it just makes humans more efficient. You need to create technology with a human touch.
Yeah, there's certain tasks that it's good at, and we're going to be touching into some of those tasks and what tasks AI or even just automation could be replacing. But let me get into this. So what do you think is, in your mind, the most likely scandal to hit with AI in the next 6 months to a year?
Most likely scandal. Well, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't. I'd probably have a few bits to that. I actually think that, and I know we've just talked about it, but I think the bias side of things is going to rear its head the most. I think we've been operating with technologies, and we're all guilty of it. everyone, I'm not going to name any names in the industry, but every major platform in the industry has been using technology to deliver job seekers into companies and companies to job seekers without any real policing or control to make sure that, the ML hasn't run off on a tangent. The machine learning hasn't run off on a tangent. So I wonder,
just machine learning. So define what that does and how it affects the AI and the learning process. A lot of people don't understand. They hear ML, AI, but they don't know how the two are intertwined.
So there are many different ways to apply machine learning, and it depends on what points of data you as a tech house or a company are looking to improve the experience and learning of your artificial intelligence. So I'll give you an example that we did and that we do. When we match a job to a job seeker, they will be given a jobs by email, which we're all very familiar with. And the jobs they select or they click on and look at, we take into account every time as a machine learning process to increase the knowledge that that was the relevant job for that user. And we use it for a macro sense, in a sense of that was the best match. And also we use it for a micro sense to deliver a more customized, tailored solution. So it's like, okay, this person's really interested in this particular sort of content, so we're going to keep delivering back to them. And we've noticed a trend that lots of people who are similar to this person pick those sorts of similar jobs, which must mean they're the best matching jobs. But what happens with that, with trends, like everybody knows, it can lead into bias and actually teaching the system to go down a merry path, which wasn't actually correct in the first place at all. So that's an example.
One application could be a feedback loop based on candidate or user behavior. Whatever behavior they take action on, then that is more likely to influence a AI decision in the future.
That's it. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Better summary than me. That's it. Yeah, that's exactly it. And normally, I mean, look, there are other ways to use machine learning. My preference is always to try and use the behavior of users as the best indicator for machine learning, because what's the best thing to teach is to get the people that use it to tell it what they want. However, if you have a certain subsector of users or in a particular, like I say, sector, location, background, culture, that can, in essence, start to deliver bias. It can start to create a system that isolates other people that maybe aren't quite the same, and it pigeonholes you into a niche in the end. And on that scale, that happens. So it's like when you try and create a generic service, it can be very difficult to compartmentalize and teach a machine to kind of be all things to all men and women.
So what do you think one of the biggest obstacles is in training the AI in the recruiting process? Is it picking a very specific use case? Is it defining the actual problem that you're trying to solve? Or is it just the sheer lack of or availability of specific types of data for the machine learning or the AI to make a decision on?
I think it's the lack of data.
Yeah.
I think data, it's like anything. The more we know, the more we know. So, and that saying is so true. It's like, the more the system knows, the more data it has, the better decisions in theory it should make. Sometimes it's very difficult to have all of the possible information ever needed to create this, this ultimate system. And there's also, again, this missing, humanized element of common sense, which is almost nigh on impossible to teach technology today. I'm sure one day it will happen. Compassion, commercial savvy. Like I see a used car salesman and I'm like, okay, he's worked selling cars forever. As an AI piece, I won't realize that requires good customer skills, good interpersonal skills that could be transferable to the recruitment industry, and they'd make a fantastic recruiter. That's sometimes pretty difficult for AI to do. It can look at the core sets of skills, but it can't use a level of common sense that a human being would go, look, I'm selling cars or telling people that they've got a perfect opportunity in front of them. If you've got if you're a good communicator and you've got good interpersonal skills, then you'd be great for this job.
Right.
And that's another thing.
The information wasn't contextualized in such a way that the AI could understand it. It just kind of got put
Yeah,
up in a bucket and said, you know what, we'll talk about that later. Don't
exactly.
really understand it.
It may deem some of it relevant, but it won't deem it first. Whereas
Right.
maybe some, and this has been, and this is me shooting at my own, service myself. This is the bit where a recruitment consultant totally has the competitive advantage over tech, because they'll be able to look at that with common sense and go, no, I think you can apply this person. And I spoke to them on the phone and they sound great and I could move them into this industry.
So
So
if we're lacking data for AI to make relevant decisions, in my opinion, AI right now, based on the historic artifact of a resume and a horribly written text-based job description, which may or may not have the job title or job
go
description that
video.
we're really looking for, right? If you can make a 70 to 80% match on a stack rank or even just a search and match, I think that's a really good threshold, if you will. What other kinds of data points or what other data sources could we pull in to get a higher match rate?
So there's lots of talk about, obviously, and they've been around for a while, and I guess obviously making the information useful, but looking at people's social profiles and the way that they behave, their kind of their behavioural and their cultural behaviour that now is becoming more and more relevant than ever in a workplace, and also identifying cultural fits for teams. Like you've got a team, a set of people, and they've all got different skills, but they've all got different personality sets as well, which kind of makes them cohesive or non-cohesive. And that's, I think that's a bit where AI will become even more important and efficient. I know people are doing it already, and we're even looking at stuff like this now. I'd be lying if I was saying if we're ahead with it. We're not. But we're looking at, how do you take AI to another level where it starts analyzing beyond the skills, beyond the resume? How do we understand who this human being is? How can we look at their digital footprint of how they behave online that might identify whether or not they'd be a good fit for this company, they'd be a good fit for the team that we want to cohesive them into.
Now, to
So
clarify, are we talking about their personal, like open, public
if I think
social
anything that can
profile?
be searched and found is
Okay.
subject to
Anything that you
scrutiny.
want to be kept private, though, can be kept
Yeah.
private.
Anything. So and that's the responsibility of the job seeker. So
Right.
you must understand. I haven't got the statistics to hand, but the majority of Fortune 500s will do a social search for you to make sure that you're not
Yeah.
a tyrant. So and so any job seekers listening out there, if there's stuff that's personal that you don't want the world to see, make sure you have a private profile. Otherwise, if you leave it public, it's fair game. But yeah, I think there will be a deeper, intimate look into because you can't distinguish anymore between like my day-to-day human life and then my kind of alter ego that's online, because that's who I am. We
Right.
live our lives through the internet a lot
Some
of the
of us
time.
do.
Well, some of us.
I just met somebody, actually, one of my buddies that I went to high school with, no social or digital footprint whatsoever. No Facebook, no LinkedIn, no Twitter account. I was like, wow.
Wow. I mean, I would be lost with that, but I'm maybe this. I'm guilty of this. I'm a millennial, and I'm also everything I do is geared towards what will Gen Z do, because that's my market of interest. I'm interested in what millennials are important, but millennials in 2021 will be 40 years old, the eldest ones.
Yeah.
So they're actually reaching a point where they're not really that young anymore. I want to know what Gen Z's going to do over the next decade, and pretty much all of them have an alter ego digital footprint, and so it's like, okay, using artificial intelligence with a level of depth, can we understand the personality, the culture of this individual, what they might be like? Will they, are there certain things that they post? Are there certain words that they say, behavior that they express that make them a better fit, a worse fit, a clash between existing hires?
Yeah, if you think about it, like my digital footprint didn't start until really the 90s or so, right? So I've been online since, I hate to say it, but 1980, 82, somewhere around that.
I was born in 85.
Okay, so I was on bulletin board systems with a 9.6 baud modem, that whole thing. So I grew up during U.S. robotics and all that stuff. I'm quite a few years older than you. But, my digital footprint didn't start until I was, well into my 20s. Now you have people of your generation and Gen Z or Z.
Gen Z.
They really, their entire lives have been documented online in some way, shape, or form, right? Their parents probably took pictures of them, posted it on Facebook. Even your unborn daughter, she's getting stuff taken
yeah, she is. I actually think,
right?
sometimes think for this generation and like my children's generation, that it's almost like online first, real life second. Yeah. Because I've actually, and I've witnessed this firsthand, I'm so going a mild tangent, but I've met people who I've like been friends with or followed on like Instagram and like Facebook, Twitter. And then I've met them in real life, and they really don't come across anything like the way they are online, because online they're kind of hidden behind this wall of, this protect, and they act and behave maybe in the way that they want to behave, but in the real world they're kind of almost, very closed off and very, very different. And it's kind of, I wonder what will happen with this kind of, this digital virtual world. But without going back to employment and AI, I think that data will become increasingly more important, because other than that, there's only so much you can analyze from a job description. There's only so much you can analyze from a resume, video, and the content behind video. Will we be able to use sentiment analysis, but based on, facial recognition? Will people allow that? Will they allow us to know whether or not they looked to whether it's the left or the right and they lied about something? All of this stuff, I think in the government, there'll probably be opportunities where facial recognition interviews and video will be
already doing.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be all over it. And and they'll analyze you on all of that stuff to decide whether or not you're the right employee.
So you and Steve, one of my good friends, known him for years, Steve O'Brien, wrote an article, and it got picked up by, I guess, NASDAQ and a couple other places. And it was really about the future of work. What was the kind of impetus or reason behind writing that article?
So, like, everyone from McKinsey to Deloitte have written, these big reports about what the future of work looks like. I'll quote Deloitte statement, which was, children age 5 today, in 15 years, 2/3 of them will be doing jobs that don't exist. And so the future of work and skills gap, AI, automation, all of those things are like doom and gloom, and what's going to happen to all of us. What happens to the skilled labor, or the labor that's now no longer needed because the machine's taken over? And also, what do we need to learn? And so Steve and I wanted to talk about, actually wanting to end on a positive note. So we actually have a sequel coming to that particular article that will be out soon.
I was going to say, because you kind of left me hanging there.
On purpose.
Okay.
So it's a 3-part piece.
Okay.
So and we're working on the second piece. But the topic is this. There's a couple of things. What do we need to learn, and what do we need to teach our children? If we can't predict what the jobs are in the future, what can we teach them? And Steve and I have a theory that one of the most important skills you're going to need to have in the future is the ability to make a decision. And I know that sounds kind of, it's not obvious.
Right.
Have the ability to take information quickly, and based on gut and based on a level of common sense, can you make a decision and can you act on it?
And that was one of the key findings that I got out of that article, was if you look at an organization and, how many people are actually empowered to make good decisions for the organization, I would say that there's very few, and they're usually at the top. Embedding that decision-making capability, I think, is going to be absolutely critical moving forward, and driving those decision-making capabilities and abilities, for your employees to be able to do that properly, drive that down into the organization at some of your lowest levels is absolutely critical. You can't slap people's hands for making a decision, especially if it's the wrong decision. People make wrong decisions.
And then it's the ability to learn from that decision, and also the ability to fail fast.
Yes.
That failure should never be seen as failure. It should be a step towards success, as long as you fail quickly.
You
You know, so
successfully found a way not to do something.
yeah, we successfully found a way that's a bloody mistake. You know, like, and then you move on. And then the other part is that, you know, the commoditized, you know, the commodity that is knowledge. Once upon a time, you'd have to go to a very specialist school to learn particular things, you know, particular skills, data science, stuff like that. There is now everything you could possibly ever want to learn is just a keyboard away, you know, and if you have the tenacity and drive to go and just read and learn, you could learn almost anything for basically free, almost anywhere in the world, you know, and you've just got to be bothered to do that. And so it's this kind of are you an individual who is static, or are you dynamic? And this is kind of maybe revealing more of what we're going to do in the next sequel. But so
right. You heard it here first.
Yeah, heard it here first. So, but like, you know, your ability to go out there and capture information, and then you know, I'll go straight in for the final part. So I won't tell you all of it, but it's this understanding of when we say doom and gloom. Do we look at doom and gloom as a national problem, i.e. a problem for the United States? Or do we look at the global impact of technology, which has resulted in global poverty almost halving in the last 2 decades? Inequality has increased in the United States, but global poverty has halved in the last 2 decades, which means it's screwing things up for some people, but for the lion's share, this whole future of work and what everyone's doing is actually good for the whole. And it's like, it can be very easy and you know, especially if you're on the receiving end of where it goes wrong, it can be very easy to just be like, well, you know, screw the rest of the world, you know, what's going to happen to America? And that's true. You know, I'm all pro America. I live here now. I've got 2 children, almost 2 children, been born here now. So, but at the same time, I think we have to kind of try and look at that there is a definite landscape shift happening because of tech, because of the future of work. Globally, it's good in a sense of it's helping people, it's removing them from poverty. On a more micro scale, nationally, it's not, because it is affecting, you know, natives and people here, and there's a bigger inequality and more people are unemployed maybe because technology is taking their jobs. And what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? One
of the things that I came from the article was that for most people, the job that they do, the career that they have, is really, it's part of their overall personality. I mean, it's basically who they are, right? Yes. And how they function. They get up, they go to work, they do their job, and then they come home. They spend more time at work than they ever do at home. And as AI takes over some of the more repetitive tasks, some of the more complex calculations, some of the high volume communications that are, you know, just embedded in our everyday job, you're not going to have those responsibilities anymore. It's going to be largely taken over by AI, especially in the recruiter space, right? You probably won't need to source or send out emails to candidates or check your social media. It's all just going to be attached to a job somehow, right?
Yep.
You know, how do you think people are going to be reacting to their changing roles and responsibilities and, you know, their self-identity?
So one of the things that, I mean, you've kind of mentioned it, is working is one of the most natural things that we can do as human beings. So work is it's just as natural as love, as friendship, because it gives us a purpose. It gives us an identity. As you said, it's one of the reasons, you know, we get up, it gives us routine. It's actually very important. And for thousands and thousands, you know, for the history of human beings, you know, work has been responsible for the majority part of our life. So I think there's an element of, and I actually spoke to Steve earlier and he gave a great analogy. He's like, technology should increase the amount of time that we all have to have coffee together. And it was a great, and I kind of paused. I thought, what do you mean by that? And he's like, well, you know, getting rid of the mundane, boring tasks means we've got more time to spend with each other, right?
Right.
And it's like, and he's like, it's true. So I think,
I don't think that's going to happen though. What I think is,
no, of course it was. That was right. An idealistic, like, we'll all have coffee together. So, right. But I think his sentiment, what he meant by that was, it could alleviate a lot of the mundane tasks. However, we have to look at the remuneration piece, because remuneration is based on hours served rather than tasks complete. Well, depends where you are. Okay. But
right. So you're getting paid for the hour the work that you're doing or the hour you spend doing
Yeah.
it, or you're getting paid for your knowledge and your intellect and
And
your thought process.
so again, so this is where certain people fall unstuck, and it's normally the people that get like destroyed by AI. And these are the ones that get paid for their time that AI can replace are the ones that will suffer,
Right.
because it's like, okay, well, we pay you for your hourly work. You only did 2 hours instead of 10 hours because our machine here did it all for you. So we're only going to give you 2 hours. And it's like, great for commerce because now I've just saved 8 hours worth of labor, but terrible for the individual who has to earn a salary in order to pay their bills and feed their families. And that's the bit where there is also like this kind of talk within our articles, which is, what will the state do?
Right.
What will the government do in the end? We don't want to live in a well, you do and you don't. You don't want to live in a world where you kind of just you're living by the state and it's kind of handing out your living to you because the robots have taken over. But at the same time, there has to be some level of social responsibility where we look after people in a certain way that they have the ability, they have a right to live, and so how are we going to combat that, and how are we going to, and I think once the industrial revolution, the fourth industrial revolution, which is what we're going through right now, according to Deloitte and McKinsey, is and all of them, in fact, is there's going to be some significant changes that are going to come. But one of my other concerns, and so is Steve's, is our government's going to react fast enough to that change? And I don't think they are. That's the one thing that worries me.
So one of the stats that was in the article was that 375 million workers are across every industry will have either be displaced or have their job functionality, responsibility significantly changed in the next 10 years. That's massive, right?
Yeah.
Is it going to be a slow, gradual, or is it going to be kind of slow and gradual and then a hockey puck? How's this going to?
I think it's going to hockey. I think it's going to, and it's like anything, like any good growth curve of a successful business or a successful takeover. Like, we're a company, we can now use machines to do this all for us. Let's implement it overnight. Suddenly, axe half the staff, change half their roles or whatever. I think it will hockey stick. And I think this is, again, the responsibility of, there's a level of responsibility for companies, because don't lose sight of the fact, as a company, whatever you're selling or giving, you need consumers. The robots will not consume what you produce or you give or your service. So if you have no one to consume what you offer, then the robots don't work anyway. Right. So there's got to be that sort of conscious in the back of the mind. Oh, we've just saved a fortune. It's like, yeah, but now you have no customers because no one's got any money to buy anything. So and then there's also this kind of conscious awareness from governments that this fantastic opportunity of technology alleviating a lot of the hard effort and labor that we've had to do. Just like I'm no longer walking 3 miles to my local HEB to go and get my groceries. I jump in a car and it does it for me. It's like I just sit behind the wheel. It's the same thing. We just have to make sure that we deliver this technology in a responsible way. Now, will that happen?
Well,
profit and greed will.
Yeah, I think that money and greed and the quest for either recruiter efficiency or just overall corporate efficiency, it could take a big toll in the next 10 years.
It might be some epic. It might be even responsible for another epic downturn. And I know that sounds, but
well, there's already some economic predictions that by 2028, 2030, there's going to be a major economic downturn anyway. That's going to make the last 2 depressions even like
a walk in the park.
Yeah.
And I kind of I believe that. I think that that might happen. I think I would hope that we would have the vision and foresight to know that, like, based on the last economic downturns, that we might be a little bit more controlling. This is the problem as well. When government intervention is classed as economic failure, as one of the points in economics, free markets are meant to be able to be free. That I do believe in free markets, obviously, but I also believe that, we've dawned on a point of technology and progression that, the economic principles that were scratched out, during pin trading and stuff like that is very different now. So I think there does need to be a decent level of intervention to make sure that we're all okay. Because otherwise, if we just let it go free market and, the natural disparity between inequality, AI and machines taking over, and then just suddenly this tiny group of people have everything and everybody else has nothing, then we've kind of gone back to a monarchy, haven't we?
It should be interesting to see. I think there's going to be some potential social uprising about that. And we're seeing that in some countries already.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily due to AI, but just to
General
the
things.
disparity in either financial freedom or political freedoms or just freedom of speech, whatever. We're certainly seeing that all over. All right. So I've got a little section here that I like to call Nope and Yup. You're only allowed to answer the question with either a nope or a yup. No elaboration on the answer at all. And we can discuss it further if you want, but not during this section, okay?
Okay, fine.
All right, so you're only allowed to answer with a nope or a yup.
A yup.
Yes. All right, so AI is still in its infancy and basically at a kindergarten level.
Yup.
Once a task is learned by AI, it can't be unlearned without rewriting the code.
Nope.
Some recruiters will lose their jobs because of advancements in technology.
Yep.
The recruiting process is massively inefficient as it stands today.
Yep.
There are few credible use cases for using blockchain in the recruiting process.
Nope.
All right. Aaron Stewart, thank you very much.
That was a rhetorical question, that last one.
I had to throw you a softball in there, right?
Yeah.
So we've got a little thing called After Hours. Don't hang up, but I'm going to end this portion of it, and then we're going to pick up in the After Hours. Everybody, thank you so much. Aaron, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Jeff. Real pleasure to be on it. It's been fantastic.
All right, everybody, check out the After Hours where we're going to finish up the conversation with Aaron here. Thanks, everybody. Make it a great one. Bye-bye.